I'm Barry Botham. I teach in the Skilled Trades Department, and Candace Brown teaches in skilled trades. And you're going to quickly realize that she's got a lot of really good experience that she brings to the table for our students. She is an architectural technologist, a stonemason, and she teaches in our brick and stone masonry program. So we're extremely fortunate to have you here. So what we're going to be talking about today, a number of different things. We're going to be talking about some of the incentives of becoming an apprentice. We definitely would love to see more women in the trades, that's for sure. I'm almost 40 years in the trades now, and I have hired a lot of women, and definitely have not regretted it. We've had a lot of female students go through our programs as well, and they do extremely well. Okay, so we're going to just touch quickly on a couple slides here. Okay, so at St. Lawrence College in Kingston, we do have 3 campuses, which I'm going to talk about shortly. We do have 2 certificate programs that revolve around apprenticeship. So the certificate programs are carpentry and culinary. Okay, so they're both full-time programs. The bonus with the full-time programs, I would say, would be the fact that if you're having some difficulty finding a job, the full-time programs will allow you to get some valuable experience that will get you that job. First of all, Candace, stonemasonry, very impressive. Mm-hmm. Architectural technologist, and also a lot of experience with Gibson timber frames.
Yes.
And so the first question I'm going to pose to you is, what created your interest in working in the trades? So why did you become a tradesperson?
I came to it probably, in a way that isn't, it was a little bit different, because I didn't have, I think a lot of people come to the trade because they've learned that skill from somebody that they know, or they have family who has a background in that specific trade, possibly. I really knew very little about masonry. I was working in corrections, and I actually read an article in the Ottawa Citizen about a woman who made a career change and became a stonemason. And I was curious about it, and it was just one of those moments where you just, you pay attention, and and you just follow. I just followed that path, and looking back at it, both my parents really always loved architecture and things that were built very well, things that, and the character that comes from well-built buildings for the most part. And so I was probably drawn to it for that reason, but in a lot of ways I really did go in blind because of an article in the Ottawa Citizen.
Okay, so it all narrows down to the media again. Okay, excellent. I mean, my story is, well, getting into the trades very similar, but well, we've definitely, this is women in the trades, so I want to make sure that we're addressing women in the trades. And I will tell you, I'll be completely honest with you, I was looking at the women that I've been teaching in the past here at the college, and I'm in my 18th year now of teaching here. And I cannot think of one that didn't enjoy herself, didn't pass, wasn't successful. I mean, when we're talking trades, the trade of carpentry, the trade of masonry, there's so many different aspects of every trade. And there's guaranteed to be a specialty part of each trade out there that will generate your interest and your curiosity and make you excel and do well. Okay, so we'll come back. We'll have a few more questions. I'm going to fly quickly through our programs and our availability. So we've got 8 diploma programs and 9 apprenticeship programs here on the Kingston campus. But we also have 3 campuses total, of which we have some really good things being taught at all 3 campuses. So you can take a look at this. Now, all too often when we talk about trades and apprenticeship, you'll notice that we have hairstyling and we have cook. They all fall into the category, but we have a lot of people, when they hear trades, they just think construction trades. So with the construction trades, as I mentioned, I teach in carpentry, and I had a female student come to me many years ago, and she said, what would I have to do to get a job with your company? And I also was contracting at the time, and I said, you'd have to apply for a job. So she said, okay, I'm applying for a job. I said, good, you start tomorrow. And she's like, are you serious? And I said, absolutely, yeah. I mean, she was a strong female student, and we definitely hired her, brought her on board, and the rest is history. So definitely no regrets when it comes to hiring women. Women do extremely well. If there's one thing that I would say is women actually have the ability to multitask. Amazing. So they can multitask, and their attention to detail is phenomenal. Okay, so we'll move along. So can I afford to be an apprentice? Okay, so I think some of the stuff that I'm going to tell you here that we're going to talk about will impress you and make you realize that, yeah, wow, I think it's doable. Okay, for one, to become an apprentice, the wages are monitored by the ministry. So when they're being monitored by the ministry, that means that they expect that you're going to be making between here and here when you're starting out as an apprentice. So when you're not an apprentice, sometimes you're way down here, but you're expected to make between here and here, which they do. Okay, and then for level 2, they're expected to go from here to here, up. And they're expected to gain their income on their experience, and they should, because I mean, every apprentice, when they're here, they work hard. When they're on the job site, they work hard. So it's really important that they're compensated well for that. Okay, and one of the other, it's not really a bonus, but it's out there, is that we have a huge skilled trade shortage. Okay, not just in Kingston, not just in Ontario, but in Canada, where we really are lacking in skilled tradespeople. Okay, so once these employers have somebody working for them that shows that they're dedicated, they show that they're showing their best interest for the company. I mean, you yourself would know that when a valuable person comes, you're going to do what you can to keep them there. And a large part of the time, it's wages that help keep them there, because there's a lot of other people that are out there looking to hire you. Okay, and then as far as the apprenticeship goes, when we're looking at the current tuition, okay, to come to school, the ministry, the federal government compensates for your tuition. Okay, in the sense that you pay each time you come to school as an apprentice, you pay $400, just a little bit more than $400. It's about $420 that you pay for your tuition, and the ministry compensates the rest of that. So that's a pretty good deal in itself, right there. Okay, you look at the next line where it says "get paid to educate yourself." You're sort of sitting there thinking, well, how do you get paid to educate yourself? The government now, again, because there's such a skilled trade shortage, they basically pay you employment insurance, because you're employed during the year when you're not at school. So they pay you. You collect EI while you're at school. So that's pretty sweet in itself. Okay, and then we move on to the apprenticeship incentive grants. Okay, so the apprenticeship incentive grants for women right now, our current provincial government has really come through for us in this, in the sense that they're really encouraging apprenticeship, and they're encouraging trades. So any women that get into the trades now are entitled to up to $6,000 in incentives. Okay, so each level they complete, they get a certain fee, and then for level 1, for level 2, for level 3. Level 3 is once you become certified. You write your exam and you become certified. So there's you get paid to go to school. You pay hardly anything for tuition. And then you get your apprenticeship incentive grants, which is a pretty sweet deal. Okay, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling on here. Like I said, when I talk about the trades, I get going here. So a 4-year scenario, and if you've joined me for the other webinars, we've had, this is the 3rd webinar that we've hosted today, where I've used this scenario, and I use it for a reason, because it's really important to get this out there. So I have a 4-year scenario that was created through payscale.com. So when you go to payscale.com, you basically type in information. And when you type in the information, it comes up and tells you what the average income is based on that trade. So one of the trades I teach in carpentry, so I tried it in carpentry. Now somebody that graduates from high school does not do an apprenticeship program, but they go into the trade. They basically go into the trade, 4 years experience, no apprenticeship, and at the end, on average, they're making about $27,000 a year. Okay, so you think, well, I don't know, if somebody put $27,000 in my pocket, that would be a good thing, but try to survive on that for 1 year. It's going to be really tough. Okay, so you take the same 4 years, somebody comes out of high school, they graduate high school, they register into an apprenticeship program. The average person after 4 years, because now they're a licensed tradesperson, they're making $60,000 after the 4 years. So rather than $27,000, they're making more than double in the exact same 4 years. They just took a different road or a different route. Okay, so I've got another question for Candace, and I do want to thank Candace. Candace actually drove a long ways to be here today because, well, I asked her to participate in this today, and like I said, we're extremely fortunate to have Candace here with us. She drove a long way through the snowy roads and everything to get here. Yeah, again, I want to thank you for being here. I do have one question that I'm going to pose, and we did receive questions as well from people that registered ahead of time and sent some questions in. So I've got a combination of questions for Candace on that. So I'm going to ask. So when you talk, and this is a question coming from me, is when you talk about trades, your excitement is very evident.
Right.
So Candace and I, we were talking last week, and I started talking about the trades, and we started planning for the webinar, and we got talking, and both of us are so excited about the trades. She just kept talking. So my question to you is, what do you feel it is? What do you feel it is that generates that excitement in you when you talk about the trades? So when you talk about trades, you come to life. So what is that?
Yeah, and again, like you said, all trades are different, and so, but I think that a common thread through a lot of them is the creativity side of it, that you really are creating, and it's something that is often very, practical and permanent and useful, and you can stand back and really look at your work, and I think that there's something about that I'm really drawn to, for sure. There's two sides of the masonry trade that I really connect with and love, and I love working with natural materials. I love touching them. I love the sound of chipping stone. I love the tools that shape them, and just creating with those natural materials. It's never, especially with stone, is going to be completely predictable, because there are, different irregularities, and you have to work with the stone that you're given. So it's not always going to be predictable. There's always going to be, an element to it that you really need to connect with that material to work with it. And so it's that creative side, but there's, in masonry as well, there's also working in restoration and in conservation, and working on those buildings that we all love, and there's something about working on those buildings that I also get really excited about, because I always treat it as a real honor to be on one of those buildings. It's somebody else's work that you are maintaining or preserving or repairing, and so it's not so much the creative side of things, but you're really connecting with the trade and the history of your trade and the people who did that before you, and the buildings that I am very drawn to, and I've always treated it as quite an honor to work on those buildings. So, and I think that different people in the masonry trade. There's so, I mean, even within any trade, there are so many avenues that you can go, obviously. Working with brick or working with stone, working on your own, or working with large groups of people as a team that you really need to rely on in order to do some of these larger projects. And so even within those trades, I think that, you can really, spend some time figuring out where do you fit even within that trade.
Right.
So once you get there, there's still different avenues that I think are fun to explore, and maybe it's a bit of everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, that's great. As you're sitting there, sort of describing it, I mean, I think all tradespeople have that excitement about the trade that they're in, and if they should have anyway, because I mean, when I'm working on a heritage building, like you're saying, I'm not doing stonework. I wish I could do what you do, but yeah, I'm just in awe when I see
the carpentry.
see some of the products that you create and
Right.
that stonemasons create, but. You do get a certain excitement about it, and I will admit, I've worked in different avenues before I got into construction many years ago, and that excitement almost 40 years later is still there. Like I go to a job site or I go into my classroom and I get to share the trades
Right.
with my students. I mean, I still have that excitement. It's very much alive inside me, and with teaching apprenticeship programs, you can see somebody where they come through and they're a little quieter, maybe, and younger in the beginning. Not necessarily, because I mean we have all sorts of different avenues that people travel down to become an apprentice. But as you teach level 1, then you teach level 2, then level 3, you can see their excitement build.
Yes.
And then some will even say, "Yeah, we're finally talking trades."
Yes.
And it's it's not really language on its own, but it's just like everybody knows and appreciates the fact of everybody doing the same thing, and it is a true love, really, when you look at it, for sure.
And that you need that time. You really just need that time to learn it, and so by the time they get there, you have to figure out how to use those tools. You have to figure out how to, develop those skills so that you can't hide it. You can't.
Right.
Like, it's going to be frustrating, and it's going to take time to learn. And I think that by the time you sort of see students come in at that third level, they're really getting it and really, connecting with it, and maybe losing some of the frustration that is a natural part of that learning process for a trade specifically.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. When she's saying that, where people might have a level of frustration. So if you're sitting there thinking trades might be for me, that might not be for me, I will tell you that when you're involved with an apprenticeship program, if you're a person that says, "I don't have the patience for it," you'll be surprised at the level of patience you get, because when you find something you love to do, and I was saying in the one of the earlier webinars today, the fact that when you're taking an apprenticeship program, so you're taking the in-school portion, you go into the first class, you're talking brick and stone masonry, you go into the second class, you're talking brick and stone masonry, and you go into so they're all intertwined and they're all related.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's a lot of hands-on activity.
Yes.
I mean, we're probably, with every program varies, but we're around 60% hands-on, so on the tools, in the shops. And that when people get involved in the trades, that's ultimately where most people want to be, is on the tools. So,
well, and that's where the learning really happens, right?
Absolutely. It just all comes together.
Yeah. And to see that, it's a pretty exciting thing.
Oh, it is. Totally.
And to know that it does take that time, and to not be frustrated by that is just part of the learning, that then you have that skill, which is truly a gift, and it does really become a part of your identity. It's that skill.
Absolutely. Yeah, it becomes, should I say who you are, but a big part of who you are.
It does.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, this is great stuff. Okay. One thing that I do want to stress is you'll notice that I just changed the slide as well, is who are our apprentices? Today, I'm not sure if I mentioned it during this webinar, but we were supposed to have a number of high school students through their teachers join us, but today is a snow day. If you're not from this general area, it was a snow day. Most buses, or all buses, were canceled. So anyway, I wanted to bring it to their attention about our OEAP programs that we've got. OEAP stands for Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, and essentially what that is, if you happen to be in high school or you have children in high school or whatever, if there's a connection in high school, it is possible to receive your level 1 while you're in high school. And some of the bonuses with that, with the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, is the fact that the school board pays for it, which is really sweet for the student. You get most of your books that you need for the entire apprenticeship and go from there. So that's one really sweet thing, a method of taking any form of an apprenticeship program. And again, talking about who our students are, I mean, we both have students from different calibers. So we might have students that are new workers, so right out of high school, or even in high school if they're in the OEAP programs, straight through to longtime workers or second career, as it mentions here, second career. A lot of the time we have students that come to us and they're just like, yeah, I was forced to do this for a career and I hated it. And, I mentioned earlier that my dad told me years ago that if you find a job that you love to do, you'll never have to go to work a day in your life. Okay. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it in this webinar, but I know I did earlier. It was very true, because I totally love what I do and totally love sharing it with people and that sort of thing. So we also have university students and university grads. So some people that will go into university and realize, no, this isn't what I wanted, or they'll be graduates and they'll come back for a trade and go from there.
Yeah, and I think that's really key, because I see a lot through Gibbs and Timber Frames, a lot of our staff, it was second career. And so they did go into the trade after going to university, or maybe working for a brief period of time in a completely different field. And I think that part of it is that they really didn't know that it was an option for them. It wasn't presented to them as an option, and when they found it, I think and I think for women, especially in the building trades, that if it's not really presented as an option and you find it, then that's where you want to be. And so it generally tends to be a very positive experience, because you didn't just land there. It's usually a fairly deliberate choice. But I see that with a lot of students who are our employees, who went to university and came back and then did go to learn a trade, and there was a frustration that they didn't really know that was an option for them. And there's this job that they love. It's a part of their identity. It's within a community that they love. I see community build from that. And they just didn't know that it wasn't, because there aren't those opportunities. It's difficult. It's not, for masonry especially, to have, that's not something that you're necessarily going to learn in high school, and which is what makes OEAP so great. And so how do you know, if you haven't been exposed to it, that is an option?
Absolutely.
And that's we have to get creative, like things like this, I suppose.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's how these originated. Was I probably receive 5 to 10 voicemails or emails a week, how do I get involved in apprenticeship? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? And this and that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've even received recently, about a month and a half ago, I received an email, somebody saying, when are they going to bring apprenticeship to Ontario? And it was just like, wow, like, we really need to get out there.
Yes.
We really need to tell people what apprenticeship is, how to become involved, what are your first steps, and going from there, because it's out there, it's alive and well. Like I say, I'm 40 years rather, I'd like to say 30, but 40 years into the trades, and I knew about it then, and it was around then, live and well, and it's still alive and well now. And which could be a reason why there might be a skilled trade shortage, is right across the country, is the fact that we need to get the information out there.
Yes, so, I think that, you know, there are jobs that we all know about and we know how to get there, but I think that in a lot of the skilled trades, building trades, we don't really know. We don't really know that they're out there. What is that job? That's something that you can choose to do. I had a little workshop for my daughter and her friends, where they worked with a mason, and they because I don't think that those girls would ever, they were all 14 at the time, and I don't think that they would ever have the opportunity to work with those materials and the tools that shape those materials otherwise. And so then how do they even pay attention to the fact that you know, a stone building is built by a mason and this is what it involves, and that might be an option for them, but more than that they know how to explore it as an option for somebody else even, you know? So it was a
great idea.
It was incredible, and to see them chipping away all day, and that was one of the things that I was fascinated to see. I was worried. It's right at an age where, you know, they're looking at their phones and they're easily distracted, and they chipped stone all day long, and and as soon as they were in contact with it and you know, sort of got the rhythm, and you know, some became really focused, and you just watch how they adjust their body or how they held the chisel, and you know, it was a pretty incredible experiment.
It's awesome when you see young people come in and they start working away at something, and they're working hard, not working smart, and then they quickly realize that working smart is better than working hard. And it's amazing how you can learn different small little techniques like that definitely will pay off. Good stuff. So steps on becoming an apprentice. So if what we're saying is sparking an interest in you, I will assure you rather that you'll be receiving these slides. So you'll be able to click on them, click on the links to register if you want. Your first step is to seek employment. Okay, now again, the thing with employment is you go out and you find employment. Now, again, I'm not sure what I've repeated and what I haven't repeated, but starting an apprenticeship is asking a lot of an employer, and it's asking a lot of an employee, and you want to make sure that you've got a really good work relationship. I would seriously recommend or suggest that you do your homework. Try to find a company that you'd like to work for. Try to find a trade, first of all, that you'd like to work in. Get out and ask questions. Feel free to come and ask us questions. We're here at the college. I'm going to give you dates for the open house and stuff like that. So we'll be here with open doors waiting to see you for sure. But so once you receive employment, the trick is, I'll have a lot of people saying, well, I can't get a job. And I say, well, what's a typical interview, or what's the first question that you ask? And 99% of the time they say, I want you to hire me as an apprentice.
Right.
And I always say, well, that's a little bit unrealistic in the sense that you're asking them to dedicate to you, and you don't know them, they don't know you. So what happens is if you go in and you apply for a job, tell them that you're interested in becoming an apprentice, but I realize that I have to put in my time, and I want you to make sure that you're happy with me. I want to make sure that I'm happy working for the company. Make sure that you are, because you're dedicating a lot of time. So once you find that, you ask them if they'll sponsor you at that point in time. So it could be 2 months, 10 months, 6 months, 8 months. It could be like down the road. But the bonus with that is once you decide to work or to get sponsored as an apprentice, you go to the ministry office, and the ministry basically says, well, how long have you been working together? And you say, well, we've been working together 8 months. They give you credit for that. So what I would do is once you get a job, treat it as if you are an apprentice, because you're truly going to be getting credit for that. And then you'll be invited to the next round of school when the seats are available for the next level 1. Okay, so that would be my first tip. One of the things I tell my students on a regular basis is you don't want to say go on a date and expect to leave engaged that night, because it's you're asking too much from them, they're asking too much from you, whoever's asking or whatever. So make sure you get to know each other, make sure you get to appreciate each other's work styles and that sort of thing, and ultimately make sure that it's a good fit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be a good experience, right? And that relationship is so close because you are really transferring those skills
Absolutely.
to somebody. So it is important to find. It is so important to find the right fit.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. So once you find this employment and you get sponsored, so you go to the link that's provided on number 2. You go to that link, you fill everything out. You and your sponsor will both have to fill it out. Once it's filled out, sent in, they'll let you know when everything's approved, and then they'll have a contract for both of you to sign. It's a dual party contract. One from the employer that basically states that I'm taking the responsibility to make sure that this person receives proper and safe training, and one from the employee stating that I agree to work with this person during my apprenticeship. So after that happens, the next available intake, the college will send you a notification that a seat is there. But I will let you know now that it does work on a first come, first served basis. So if we have an intake of 40 students, 50 to 55 invitations will go out. And the reason they send more out is because sometimes due to unforeseen reasons, somebody might not be able to come to school that year. They could have a trip planned and all of a sudden realize that they're being invited to school or something along that line. So they decline. So anyway, but I do recommend as soon as you get this notification, contact the college and reserve your seat. Because if you don't, they will fill up and sell it quickly, and you don't want to have to wait for another year for the next level to come into. Okay. If you're looking for an office to contact, whether you're in Belleville, Cornwall, Kingston, okay, we have campuses in Cornwall, Brockville, and Kingston, where we teach different apprenticeship programs at all 3 campuses. A lot of our students come from the Belleville area as well, and even as far down as Cobourg and north of here as well. So if you are interested, there's the contact information for 3 of the offices, and it's quite easy to find contact information. You can either phone one of these offices, and they'll share the contact information with an office that's closer to you, and you can basically get all the information that you need. Okay, so we're going to open up hopefully you've been sending questions along the way. I do want to just bump ahead 2 slides before I forget. Okay, if any of this sounds like it might be for you, I would highly suggest that you come to our open house. Our open house is Saturday, April 4th, Saturday, April 4th, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So don't come late in the afternoon, because it's only 3 hours in the morning. We basically open our doors. We're proud of our campuses. We're proud of our labs. We're proud of everything. We're proud of our students, because our students will be there as well. So There's a lot of us here. We'll be here to answer your questions, regardless of what program it's related to. If you recognize my face, or Candace, or whoever, if you recognize any of our faces at all, feel free to come over and talk to us, and we'll point you in the right direction so that you can actually talk to the coordinator or one of the full-time professors or part-time professors in that given area. Should you have any questions at all, you can send emails to the email noted here, or even phone, leave voicemail. I would suggest email for myself because I can return it at any point in time. I teach full time during the day, so I can return your email in the evening or weekends even sometimes. The other one that's just as important here is definitely the college phone number, the 5400 number, and the extension 1376. That's the number. That's the number and the extension you will phone if you're phoning to reserve a seat or booking a seat for your training. But other than that, I'm going to bounce back. And do we have any questions, Zoe, that have been coming in?
We do, yeah.
Awesome.
The first one I'd like to ask you is, we talked a little bit about how both you found your specific path and something that you love. But for somebody who's debating between either a couple of trades or whether or not to get into the trades, what's the best way for them to figure out which trade, or if the trades in general is the right fit for them?
Yeah, I can think of a couple different ways. This has been a concern for a lot of people for a lot of years. So recently, the college actually has just created a program called Taste of the Trades, which you participate in Taste of the Trades as well. So you can come and try a little bit of, do some brick and stone masonry work. You can come and do some carpentry work, do some plumbing work, do some electrical. That way you get to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that over a short period of time, and identify, number one, you identify, wow, I don't like that, which is good because you don't want to find employment and start an apprenticeship in something you don't like. But the number one thing is find one that you like, pursue it. And while you're here, you're every one of us, we're all trained teachers and trained professionals in the trade area that we're teaching. So a lot of the time we'll have we can answer some questions and maybe even point you in the right direction. Can't guarantee you employment at any one spot, but we have been known to find sponsors for people as well. So Taste of the Trades, something that you might really want to look at. We also have a program coming up as well through Limestone District School Board, I believe it is, Women in the Trades. So that is one energy-packed day where we have a number of female students that come by, very curious about the trades. They're asking questions, they sign up for certain projects and that sort of thing. So those are two ways that I can think of for them to get involved, definitely. In the trades.
Perfect. Well, those are both great options.
Thank you.
We've also spoken a little bit about some different trades, including carpentry or stonemasonry. But in the little questionnaire that we gave out to our attendees before joining our webinar today, there were some questions about specific positions that our attendees were unsure whether or not they were in trades specifically. So there are three on my list here. One is cleaning, from somebody who currently owns a cleaning business. The other is aesthetics, or the position of esthetician. And the last one is early childhood educator. Now, are any of these trades?
Did you want to take a run at any of those, or?
No.
No, okay. Early childhood education, I know we do teach here at the college. My wife actually used to teach part of that program and develop the online training program with the fine faculty from here. So it's not considered a trade. So it doesn't, you wouldn't register as an apprentice. You basically will come here for the training through a full-time program or online program. Which is beneficial to some people that might want to do it if they're at a distance from here. So it's available both ways. where you will work. It's sort of similar to an apprenticeship in the sense that you actually come for in-school training, and then there's a placement, and you actually go out on placement. It's not a paid placement, but it's a placement where you can get some really good experience. It's monitored and observed. Okay, so that addresses the early childhood education, I think. So it is available both online or in school here at the college. And the other ones, esthetician. It is absolutely a program that is offered here. When I look at our actual programs, it doesn't mention esthetician as an apprenticeship program. So I would have to say that it is strictly a certificate or a diploma, depending on how it's offered and which year you take. I will tell you that the students at St. Lawrence College compete every year at a skills competition, and if you walk down by our aesthetics lab and hairstyling labs, you're going to find gold ribbon banners all over down there because the training that they receive here is top notch. And as far as aesthetics and hair, it's count me out on that one, but definitely is out there. And there was one other one. Cleaning. Okay, cleaning right now there isn't, and not that there shouldn't be. I mean, I would probably, if I were actively involved in that, I would probably pursue the avenue by contacting the ministry and just asking questions about it. Because having owned a contracting company, we've hired a number of different cleaners to come in. And there are a lot of things that they're dealing with. I mean, you're dealing with health and safety, you're dealing with chemicals, you're dealing with all sorts of different things, people's valuables. So, I mean, it's a big job. It's an important job. We don't currently have a program here that revolves around that. But even hearing this question, I mean, the question's out there. Maybe I will take it back to my associate dean and just say, hey, this is something that came in during the webinar. And we should look at that and maybe explore that avenue. So that's maybe something that we're going to be offering, thanks to whoever just asked that question.
Perfect. I'm glad we asked that.
Yeah.
The last question I have for you is, what recommendation can you make for someone who has a disability and is interested in the trades?
Okay, there's a number of different avenues that you can explore for sure. I mean, every trade has so many different roads that you can go travel down, and feel free to kick in here at any point. But I would say
depending on the disability, really.
It would depend on the disability
and on the trade.
On the trade. There's a number of different jobs that you could partake in. There's a number of different avenues you can go through. It's something that I would definitely, if you wrote down my contact information, whoever asked this question, I would definitely like to speak with you more. And then if we can have a conversation about and sort of specify what the disability is possibly, and then I mean, we can explore many doors that'll be open for sure. And accommodation, absolutely. So please feel free to reach out, and we'll have a personal conversation about that for sure.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that resource.
Okay.
That's all the questions that I have, and I don't see any more coming into our Q&A section. So did you have any finishing comments or anything you'd like to say before we go?
Would you like to add anything more?
No, it's great to even listen to you run through all that, and I think that it's great that we're looking at this for women in the trades, in all trades. I think that it's good to make sure that everyone knows that all of those doors are open. I think you should, if there's any other questions, for sure, feel free to contact me, especially if it's, specific to being, women in the building trades. I'm always
I highly
happy
suggest
to.
that she's very skilled and very talented and a great person to talk with too. So.
But no, I think, go for it, try it,
Okay,
give it a try.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'll just say one other thing, because there are other ways to maybe dabble in it that I was thinking of when you're talking about a taste of the trades, but even just looking at, different workshops that are offered out there privately that may give you, a taste of a specific trade, and then you could, explore registering for a trade after that. But that is one other way, is that sometimes there are private workshops, or the Canadian Dry Stone Walls Association will put on workshops, or to just sort of put you in contact with those people and those potential employers as well.
Right.
So if there's a trade in mind, I think that if you explore that, you can maybe find private run workshops that would help you get started.
Excellent. On that note, I should have mentioned it earlier. I would highly recommend, if you're having difficulty finding that workshop, if you think that workshop should be like, why don't they teach that? Why doesn't somebody teach that?
Yeah.
Please reach out to us, because we're always looking for ideas from the community to run either full-time programs or part-time studies or even weekend workshops. I mean, the resources in this area are limitless. I mean, we've got so many great resources, and we can bring people in and offer a weekend workshop. If we have enough people register for it, then we'll absolutely run it. So
I would love to see more of that, just to be able to try it in case that is your path. Yeah.
Excellent. So if that's something that you think would be beneficial, or something that would help you out, reach out to us. We can have conversations and go from there. You never know, maybe next month there might be a workshop here at the college on the topic that you're asking about. So feel free to reach out. That's absolutely great.